Do you know what separates the most successful people in the world from everyone else? Not talent. Not luck. Not connections. Not even intelligence. Just one thing. One single thing that every extraordinary person has mastered and that most ordinary people spend their entire lives wishing they had. And that one thing is discipline. And here is the most powerful truth about it: discipline is not something you are born with. It is not a gift handed to a lucky few. It is a skill. A completely learnable, completely buildable, completely life-changing skill that anyone, and I mean absolutely anyone, can develop with the right understanding and the right system. Today we are going to break down exactly how. Welcome to Divine Vedanta, where we go deep into the books that actually change lives. The book we are covering today is How to Be Disciplined by Sheldon Howe. And I want to be upfront with you, this is not going to be a surface-level summary. We are going all the way in. We are going to talk about the psychology, the neuroscience, the real-world strategies, and the honest truths that most people never hear about what it actually takes to build a disciplined life. If you have ever started and stopped 100 times, if you know exactly what you need to do but cannot seem to do it consistently, if you are tired of living below your potential, this video is for you. Stay till the very end because the most important message comes last. Sheldon Howe is a best-selling personal development author and productivity coach who has spent years studying the science of self-discipline and translating it into no-fluff, immediately actionable strategies that real people can use in their real lives starting today. His approach is direct, honest, and grounded in both scientific research and personal experience. And what he reveals in this book will completely change the way you think about discipline, not just intellectually, but in the way you actually live your daily life. So let us start at the very beginning. And let us start with a question that most people never honestly ask themselves: what is discipline actually? Because here is the thing, most of us have a completely wrong idea about what discipline is. We think discipline means forcing yourself to do things you hate. We think it means punishing yourself, depriving yourself, white-knuckling your way through every day. We think it is this heavy, painful, joyless thing that only certain people are capable of. And because we think that, we avoid it. We resist it. We tell ourselves we are just not that kind of person. But Sheldon Howe says, stop. That picture of discipline is wrong. And that wrong picture is keeping you stuck. Discipline, real discipline, is the ability to consistently guide your actions, your feelings, and your impulses in the direction that aligns with your long-term goals. That is it. Discipline does not stop you from living your life. Discipline keeps you on the path toward the life you actually want. It is not a prison, it is a compass. It does not take away your freedom, it creates it. And when you genuinely understand that, when you feel that shift at a deep level, everything changes. Think about it this way. When you stay up late scrolling through your phone instead of sleeping, is that what you actually want? No. What you actually want is to wake up feeling rested and energized and ready to take on the day. But in that moment, your impulse pulls you toward the phone. Discipline is the awareness and the ability to recognize that impulse and redirect yourself toward what you actually want. That is not self-punishment. That is self-mastery. And that distinction is everything. Now let us talk about the biggest enemy standing between you and a disciplined life. And that enemy has a name: procrastination. Most of us think of procrastination as just a little bit of laziness. We think it is a minor annoyance. We think everybody does it and it is not that big a deal. But Sheldon Howe says, do not underestimate it. Procrastination is the silent killer of dreams. It does not make a dramatic entrance. It does not announce itself. It just quietly, consistently, day after day, keeps you from becoming the person you are capable of being. And the reason procrastination is so hard to beat is because most people try to fight it without understanding it. They try to motivate themselves out of it. They try to force themselves. And it does not work. Because procrastination is not laziness, it has very specific psychological roots. And until you understand those roots, you cannot pull them out. The first root is overwhelm. When a task feels too big, too complicated, too far away, the brain automatically moves away from it. This is a protective mechanism built into our psychology. The brain perceives a large, uncertain challenge as a threat, and it wants to avoid the threat. And so your dream, your big, meaningful goal, actually triggers avoidance in your brain because it feels so massive and so uncertain. This is why we procrastinate most on the things that matter most to us. And the solution Sheldon Howe gives is so simple it almost sounds too easy. Break it down. Take any task that feels overwhelming and break it into pieces so small that they no longer feel threatening. If you want to write a book, your goal for today is not to write a book. Your goal is to write one paragraph. Just one. And then one more. Because the brain can handle one paragraph. The brain cannot handle writing a whole book in one sitting, but one paragraph. Absolutely. And that is where momentum begins. There is a famous story about Jerry Seinfeld, one of the most successful comedians who ever lived, that perfectly illustrates this principle. Someone once asked him how he consistently wrote such great material. And his answer was almost shockingly simple. He said he writes jokes every single day. That is it. And every day that he writes, he puts a big red X on that day on a calendar. And then his goal becomes simply, do not break the chain. Do not break the chain. That chain, that streak, that momentum, becomes more motivating than any external reward. And this is exactly the principle Sheldon Howe builds on. Small, consistent actions compound into extraordinary results. Every single time. The second root of procrastination is fear. And fear shows up in many different disguises. There is the fear of failure, what if I try and it does not work? There is the fear of judgment, what will people think? There is the fear of imperfection, I cannot start until everything is just right. And of all these fears, Sheldon Howe says perfectionism is the most dangerous because it is the most sophisticated. It disguises itself as high standards. It tells you that you are just waiting until the time is right, until the conditions are perfect, until you are fully ready. But the truth is, perfect never comes. Ready never fully arrives. And waiting for perfect is just another word for never starting. The solution? Done is better than perfect. Start badly if you have to. Start slowly if you have to. But start. Because action creates momentum. Momentum creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And none of those things ever come from waiting. The most successful people in the world did not wait until they were perfect. They started messy and they got better along the way. The third root of procrastination is instant gratification. And in the world we live in today, this might be the most powerful and most dangerous root of all. We live in a world of infinite instant stimulation. You can get entertainment in seconds. Information in seconds. Social validation in seconds. And our brains, which were designed to respond to reward, have become deeply addicted to this instant hit. And when everything is instant, anything that requires time and patience and delayed reward starts to feel unbearable. Exercise feels painful when Netflix is right there. Study feels boring when TikTok is right there. Building a skill feels slow when dopamine is one scroll away. And this brings us to one of the most important concepts in this book, delayed gratification. The ability to resist what feels good right now in favor of what will be genuinely great later. Stanford University ran one of the most famous psychological studies in history, the marshmallow test. Children were given one marshmallow and told, if you wait 15 minutes without eating it, you will get 2 marshmallows. Some waited. Some did not. And when researchers tracked those same children decades later, the ones who had waited consistently outperformed the others in academics, in careers, in relationships, in financial outcomes, and in overall life satisfaction. Now, and this is important, that study does not mean your destiny is sealed in childhood. What it means is that the ability to delay gratification, the ability to choose the long game over the short one, is one of the strongest predictors of success in life. And unlike what you might think, this ability is not fixed. It can be developed. It can be trained. And that is exactly what this book teaches you to do. Now let us talk about the concept that is truly at the heart of everything Sheldon Howe teaches in this book, and that is habits. Because here is the fundamental truth: discipline does not come from willpower. Willpower is too unreliable, too limited, too draining. Real, lasting discipline comes from habits. From systems. From automatic behaviors that happen whether you feel motivated or not. And when you understand that, when you stop trying to rely on motivation and start building habits instead, everything becomes infinitely more manageable. Science tells us that approximately 45% of our daily behaviors happen on autopilot. Nearly half of what we do every day we do not consciously decide to do, it just happens automatically based on our habits. And that is actually incredible news. Because it means if you can design your habits intentionally, if you can architect your automatic behaviors, then half of your daily life will automatically move in the direction you want without constant effort, without constant willpower, without constant struggle. Sheldon Howe explains the science of habit formation with absolute clarity. Every habit runs on a three-part loop: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the trigger that starts the habit. The routine is the actual behavior. The reward is the satisfaction that tells your brain to repeat this pattern next time. This loop runs automatically in the background of your life constantly. Every habit you have, good or bad, runs on this exact loop. Take a very common example: reaching for your phone the moment you wake up. The cue is the alarm going off. The routine is picking up the phone and scrolling. The reward is the instant hit of novelty and stimulation. And because that reward feels good, your brain encodes this loop and repeats it automatically every morning. That is why it feels so hard to stop. It is not laziness, it is neuroscience. Now if you want to change that habit, Sheldon Howe explains the most effective approach: do not try to fight the cue and do not try to eliminate the reward. Instead, change the routine. Keep the same cue and keep the same general category of reward, but put a different behavior in the middle. So when the alarm goes off, instead of reaching for your phone, you drink a glass of water. You get up. You stretch. You do something that serves your goals instead of draining them. Over time, this new routine becomes the automatic response to that same old cue. And the old habit loses its grip. Now let us talk about keystone habits, which is one of the most powerful and most underrated ideas in this entire book. Keystone habits are the habits that work like dominoes. When one falls, it knocks over everything else. They are the habits that do not just change one behavior, they trigger a chain reaction that improves multiple areas of your life simultaneously and seemingly automatically. Research has shown that regular exercise is perhaps the most powerful keystone habit that exists. When people start exercising consistently, something fascinating happens. Their diet improves, without them specifically trying to eat better. Their sleep quality goes up. Their stress levels drop. Their focus at work improves. Their relationships get better. Their confidence increases. All of this from one habit. Exercise did not just make them fitter, it reorganized their whole life in a positive direction. This is why Sheldon Howe says, if you are just starting to build discipline and you do not know where to begin, start with a keystone habit. Start with the one change that will pull everything else forward. And for most people, the most powerful keystone habit is waking up early. Because when you wake up early, you create time. And in that quiet, undistracted time, you can exercise, you can meditate, you can plan, you can read, you can work on your most important goal, and you set the tone for your entire day before the world has a chance to pull you in different directions. Now let us talk about goal setting, because this is where so many people make critical mistakes that doom their discipline efforts before they even begin. Sheldon Howe is very clear about this: most people do not fail because they are not trying hard enough. They fail because their goals are fundamentally wrong. Their goals are too vague, too massive, too abstract, or too disconnected from their actual values. And when a goal is wrong, no amount of effort will make it work. This is why this book introduces the framework of SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Let me show you the difference with a real example. If your goal is, I want to get healthy, that is a terrible goal. It is vague. You cannot measure it. There is no deadline. There is no clear action. Your brain does not know what to do with it. But if your goal is, I am going to lose 15 pounds in the next 4 months by working out 5 days a week and eliminating refined sugar, now that is a goal. It is specific. It is measurable. It is achievable. It connects to your health values. And it has a clear timeline. Your brain can work with that. Your brain takes that seriously and begins to organize your behavior around it. Alongside SMART goals, Sheldon Howe emphasizes the critical importance of connecting short-term daily actions to long-term visions. Your long-term goal gives you direction. But your short-term goals give you daily action. And the magic happens when those two things are connected, when every small thing you do today is a deliberate step toward the bigger thing you want next year. When you feel that connection, even the smallest tasks feel meaningful. And meaningful action sustains itself in a way that forced action never can. Now let us move into one of the most practically powerful sections of this book, time management. Or more accurately, what Sheldon Howe calls attention and energy management. Because here is a truth that changes everything, you cannot manage time. Time moves at the same pace for every single person on Earth. Warren Buffett gets 24 hours. You get 24 hours. What you can manage is your attention and your energy. And that shift in framing changes your entire approach to productivity. One of the most powerful tools Sheldon Howe introduces in this section is the Eisenhower Matrix, a simple 4-quadrant system for organizing every task in your life based on 2 dimensions, urgency and importance. The first quadrant holds tasks that are both urgent and important, crises, deadlines, genuine emergencies. These need to happen now. The second quadrant holds tasks that are important but not urgent, planning, learning, building relationships, taking care of your health, working on long-term projects. These are the tasks that most directly determine the quality of your life. The third quadrant holds tasks that feel urgent but are not actually important, certain emails, certain meetings, other people's requests that feel pressing but do not actually move your life forward. And the fourth quadrant holds tasks that are neither urgent nor important, mindless scrolling, unnecessary entertainment, time-wasting distractions. Sheldon Howe says something that should stop you in your tracks: disciplined, successful people spend the majority of their time in the second quadrant. In the important but not urgent zone. Because that is where real growth happens. That is where relationships deepen, skills develop, and futures are built. But most people spend most of their time bouncing between the first and third quadrants, always reacting, always in crisis mode, always putting out fires that often should not have been allowed to ignite in the first place. And the fourth quadrant silently devours whatever time is left. Now let us talk about something that this book treats with deep seriousness: the morning routine. Because Sheldon Howe believes, and the evidence strongly supports, that how you begin your day determines how your entire day unfolds. Your morning is not just the first hour of your day. It is the emotional, mental, and physical foundation upon which everything else in your day is built. Look at the morning routines of the world's highest performers and a pattern emerges that is impossible to ignore. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, wakes up at 4 in the morning. Oprah Winfrey starts her day with meditation and gratitude. Barack Obama worked out every single morning without exception. Richard Branson wakes at 5 and prioritizes fitness and family time before the world demands anything of him. These are not coincidences. These people understand something that most people do not: the early morning hours are sacred. The world has not had a chance to drain you yet. Your willpower is fully charged. Your brain is at its sharpest. And the habits you build in those morning hours compound into something extraordinary over time. Sheldon Howe offers a morning framework that you can adapt to your own life. The moment your alarm goes off, do not reach for your phone. The very first thing you do is drink a glass of water. After sleeping for 7 or 8 hours, your body is dehydrated, and water is the simplest and most effective way to signal to your body and brain that it is time to wake up and function. Then move your body. Even 5 minutes of movement, a short walk, some stretching, a quick workout, gets your blood flowing, triggers the release of feel-good chemicals in your brain, and shifts you into an alert and ready state. Then feed your mind. Read something meaningful. Journal. Meditate. Do something that puts your mind in a positive and intentional space before the chaos of the day begins. And finally, set your top 3 priorities for the day. Not a 20-item to-do list. 3 things. The 3 actions that if you do nothing else today will still make the day a win. And make sure the very first thing you tackle is the hardest, most important thing on that list. This last idea connects to one of the most famous productivity concepts in the world, one that Mark Twain is credited with coining: eat the frog. If you have to eat a frog, do it first thing in the morning. And if you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the bigger one first. What this means in practical terms is simple: do your hardest and most important task first, before anything else, before your energy drops and your willpower fades. Because once you do, the rest of the day feels easier. The momentum you carry from having already done the hard thing makes every subsequent task feel more manageable. And the satisfaction and confidence you feel from having faced the difficult thing head-on becomes its own form of fuel. Now let us talk about willpower, and the honest truth about it that changes everything. We have already established that willpower is limited. But Sheldon Howe goes deeper than this. He explains that willpower and self-control are not the same thing. And understanding that difference is crucial. Willpower is the raw force of resisting an impulse in the moment. It is exhausting. It is unreliable. And as we have discussed, it depletes as the day goes on. But self-control operates on a different level entirely. Self-control works through environment design, through systems, and through habits. It removes the need for willpower by making the right choice the easy choice, or sometimes the only choice. Here is a perfect illustration. If your goal is to eat healthier and you rely on willpower alone, every time you open the refrigerator and see junk food, you have to engage in an internal battle. And the more tired and depleted you are, the more likely you are to lose that battle. But if you redesign your environment, if you simply stop buying junk food and stock your refrigerator with healthy options, there is no battle. The hard choice has been removed from the equation entirely. The easy choice is now the healthy choice. That is self-control through environment design. And it is infinitely more sustainable than white-knuckling it every single time. Related to this is a fascinating concept called temptation bundling, which researcher Catherine Milkman developed and which Sheldon Howe explores in this book. Temptation bundling means pairing something you need to do but do not want to do with something you genuinely enjoy. For example, maybe you hate going to the gym but you absolutely love a specific podcast. Your rule becomes, you only listen to that podcast while you are at the gym. Now the gym is no longer just an obligation, it is the gateway to something you actually look forward to. The temptation and the discipline are bundled together. And your brain starts associating the gym with pleasure rather than pain. Over time, that association becomes powerful enough to sustain the habit without much effort at all. Now let us talk about something that most people in the self-discipline conversation completely ignore, and that is mindfulness. Not mindfulness as some abstract spiritual concept, but mindfulness as a practical tool for building discipline. Sheldon Howe is very clear about this: mindfulness and discipline are deeply, inseparably connected. Because discipline requires awareness. You cannot redirect a behavior you have not noticed. You cannot change a pattern you cannot see. And mindfulness is the practice of developing that awareness. When you are mindful, you notice your impulses before you act on them. You notice the moment when you are about to reach for your phone instead of getting back to work. You notice the moment when anxiety is pushing you toward avoidance. You notice the moment when comfort is whispering louder than commitment. And in that noticing, in that small gap between impulse and action, you have a choice. A real choice. Not just a reaction. Mindfulness creates that gap. And every time you use that gap to choose differently, you strengthen your discipline. The neuroscience here is remarkable and well documented. Regular mindfulness practice, even just 10 minutes a day, physically strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, self-control, and long-term planning. And it reduces the reactivity of the amygdala, the brain's fear and emotional reaction center. In other words, meditation literally makes your brain better at discipline. Not metaphorically. Physically. Measurably. If you want to build discipline and you are not practicing some form of mindfulness, you are leaving one of your most powerful tools completely unused. Now let us talk about something that Sheldon Howe addresses with tremendous depth and practical wisdom, and that is how to design your routines so that they are actually sustainable. Because here is what kills most people's discipline efforts: they design routines that are either too rigid, too ambitious, or too disconnected from who they actually are. They see a successful person's morning routine online: wake up at 5, 2-hour workout, cold shower, an hour of meditation, journaling, reading, and they try to replicate it overnight. And by the end of the first week they are completely burned out and they have given up entirely. Sheldon Howe's approach is radically different. He says, start smaller than you think you need to. Start so small that failure seems almost impossible. If you currently do not exercise at all, do not commit to working out an hour a day. Commit to 5 minutes. Just 5. 5 minutes of movement every single day. That is a goal so small that you have almost no excuse not to do it. And once that tiny habit is locked in, once you are doing 5 minutes consistently without fail, then you build on it. 10 minutes. 20. 30. Gradually and naturally expanding what has already become part of your identity. This connects directly to the work of B.J. Fogg, a researcher at Stanford whose concept of tiny habits Sheldon Howe references throughout this book. Fogg's research shows that behavior change is most reliably achieved not by raising motivation but by reducing the size of the behavior. When a habit is tiny, the resistance to starting it is minimal. And when resistance is minimal, consistency skyrockets. And in the long run, consistency is the only variable that truly determines your results. Not intensity. Not passion. Not talent. Consistency. Now let us talk about something that is critically important and too often skipped in conversations about discipline, and that is how to handle failure. Because here is the honest truth: failure is not a question of if. It is a question of when. Every person who is seriously working on building discipline will have days when the routine breaks, when the willpower fails, when the procrastination wins. And how you respond to those moments determines whether your discipline ultimately grows or ultimately collapses. Sheldon Howe is very honest about this. He says, discipline does not mean never falling down. Discipline means getting back up quickly, cleanly, and without excessive self-condemnation. This connects to the work of psychologist Carol Dweck and her landmark research on fixed mindset versus growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that ability is static: either you have discipline or you do not. When they fail, it confirms their belief that they are not disciplined people, and they give up. People with a growth mindset believe that everything can be developed. When they fail, they treat it as information: what did not work, what can I do differently next time, how can I adjust my approach? Sheldon Howe says clearly, to build discipline, you must embrace a growth mindset toward discipline itself. Every setback is a data point, not a verdict. Every failure is a lesson, not a life sentence. And the practice of bouncing back, of refusing to let a bad day become a bad week and a bad week become a dead dream, that is where real discipline is forged. Not in the easy days. In the hard ones. One tool Sheldon Howe recommends for extracting maximum learning from both successes and failures is something originally used by the military called the after-action review. After any significant experience, whether it went well or poorly, you ask yourself 3 questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What will I do differently next time? These 3 questions, practiced consistently, turn every experience into a source of growth. And over time, that accumulated wisdom makes your discipline progressively stronger, smarter, and more resilient. Now let us go deep on something that Sheldon Howe considers foundational to everything else in this book, and that is environment design. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves its own full exploration because it is genuinely one of the most powerful ideas in the entire science of behavior change. The core insight is this: human behavior is far more shaped by environment than we realize. We like to think that we make choices based on our values, our intentions, and our willpower. But research shows that the choices we make are heavily influenced by what is immediately available, what is most visible, and what requires the least effort. James Clear captured this brilliantly in Atomic Habits, which Sheldon Howe references extensively, when he said that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your environment is your most powerful system. So here is how you put this into practice. If you want to drink more water, put water bottles everywhere, on your desk, on your nightstand, in your car, on the kitchen counter. Make water the most visible and most accessible thing in every room. If you want to read more, take your phone out of the bedroom and put a book on your nightstand. The last thing you see at night and the first thing you see in the morning should be that book. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits and vegetables at eye level in the refrigerator, in the spot where your eyes naturally land when you open the door. Put the less healthy things in the back or remove them from the house entirely. If you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Put your gym shoes right next to your bed. Remove every possible barrier between you and the gym. Make the right choice so frictionless and so obvious that it becomes the path of least resistance. These are not complex strategies. They are remarkably simple. But the cumulative effect of designing your environment this way is enormous. Because when the right choice is the easy choice, you make the right choice far more often. Without a battle. Without willpower. Without struggle. That is the power of environment design. It is not about being stronger, it is about being smarter. Now let us talk about accountability, which Sheldon Howe identifies as one of the most consistently underutilized tools in building discipline. Research across multiple studies and domains shows that people who have some form of external accountability are dramatically more likely to follow through on their commitments than people who rely solely on internal motivation. The reason is straightforward: when you make a commitment only to yourself, the cost of breaking it is private. No one else knows. No one else is affected. So the temptation to let yourself off the hook is very powerful. But when you have made a commitment to someone else, a friend, a mentor, a coach, a community, breaking that commitment has a social cost. And that social cost, even when it is just a feeling of mild disappointment in yourself for letting someone down, is often powerful enough to keep you on track when nothing else would. Sheldon Howe suggests finding an accountability partner who genuinely wants to see you grow, someone who will be honest with you, who will celebrate your wins, who will gently push you when you are slipping, and who is also working toward their own growth. The accountability should be mutual when possible, because that creates an even stronger bond of shared commitment. And if you cannot find an individual partner, accountability groups and communities, which are easier than ever to find online, can serve the same function with the added energy of collective motivation and shared experience. Now let us talk about the role of physical health in discipline, because Sheldon Howe makes this connection explicit and science backs it up completely. Your physical state is not separate from your capacity for discipline, it is foundational to it. How you sleep, how you move, and how you eat directly and measurably impacts your brain's ability to exercise self-control, make good decisions, and maintain focus. Sleep is perhaps the most significant factor. Research has shown that even a single night of inadequate sleep dramatically reduces self-control, increases impulsivity, impairs decision-making, and makes you far more likely to procrastinate and far more susceptible to distraction. One single night. Think about what chronic sleep deprivation, which is the reality for millions of people, does to your capacity for discipline over weeks and months and years. Sheldon Howe is unequivocal: 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is not a luxury. It is the physical foundation upon which all other discipline rests. If you are serious about becoming more disciplined and you are consistently sleeping less than 7 hours, that is the first thing to fix. Before the morning routine. Before the new habits. Sleep first. Exercise comes next. Physical movement is one of the most potent brain-enhancing activities available to human beings. Harvard researcher John Ratey spent years documenting what he called the miracle of exercise on brain function. When you exercise, your brain releases a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which acts as a fertilizer for brain cells. It promotes the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing neural connections, and directly enhances the function of the prefrontal cortex, the exact part of your brain that controls self-discipline, decision-making, and long-term planning. Exercise does not just make your body stronger. It literally makes your brain better at discipline. And then there is nutrition. The food you eat is the raw material your brain uses to function. Processed food, refined sugar, and unhealthy fats create inflammation, including in the brain, that impairs cognitive function and reduces self-control. Whole foods, healthy fats, and micronutrient-rich fruits and vegetables give your brain the biological resources it needs to perform at its highest level. You cannot build a disciplined mind in a body that is being systematically undernourished. Physical health and mental discipline are not separate conversations, they are one conversation. Now let us talk about something that is absolutely critical in the modern world: digital discipline. The battle for your attention has never been more fierce, more sophisticated, or more consequential. Every major technology platform, social media, streaming services, news feeds, gaming apps, has been designed by some of the most brilliant engineers and psychologists in the world with one explicit goal: to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. Variable reward schedules, infinite scroll, social validation loops, perfectly calibrated notification timing, these are not accidents. They are the product of billions of dollars of research specifically designed to hijack your brain's dopamine system. And they are extraordinarily effective at what they do. And here is the uncomfortable truth: trying to fight this through pure willpower alone is a losing battle. You are one tired human being with limited willpower against billion-dollar companies with armies of engineers. Sheldon Howe does not tell you to try harder. He tells you to redesign the battlefield. Delete apps that drain your attention without adding genuine value to your life. Set specific designated times for social media and honor those boundaries like appointments. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Charge your phone in another room at night so it is not the first thing you reach for in the morning and the last thing you look at before you sleep. Create physical and digital distance between yourself and the things that steal your focus. Sheldon Howe also introduces the concept of a digital Sabbath, a designated period each week, whether a full day or just a few hours, that is completely technology-free. Use that time to be in nature, to connect with people face to face, to do something creative and offline, to rest and recharge in a way that no amount of passive screen consumption can replicate. This is not about rejecting technology. Technology is an extraordinary tool. This is about being intentional about when and how you use it, so that it serves your goals rather than consuming your attention, your time, and your life. Now let us talk about one of the deepest and most transformative ideas in this entire book, and that is the relationship between identity and discipline. Sheldon Howe argues that the most powerful and most durable form of behavior change does not come from trying to change your behaviors directly. It comes from changing how you see yourself. Your identity. Most approaches to self-improvement are goal-based. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. I want to save money. And while those goals are not wrong, they have a fundamental weakness: they are external targets. And when you hit them, or when they feel too far away, the motivation to maintain the behaviors that support them can collapse. Identity-based change is different. Instead of asking what do I want to achieve, you ask who do I want to become. Instead of saying I am trying to exercise more, you say I am an athlete. Instead of saying I am trying to eat better, you say I am someone who takes care of my body. Instead of saying I am working on my discipline, you say I am a disciplined person. And then you behave in ways that are consistent with that identity. Think about the difference in how these two people respond when someone offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I am trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I am not a smoker." Both declined. But the first person is in a struggle. The second person has made a statement about who they are. One is about willpower. The other is about identity. And identity is far more durable than willpower. Every time you act in alignment with your stated identity, you cast a vote for that identity. Every morning workout is a vote for being an active person. Every hour of focused work is a vote for being a disciplined professional. Every book you read is a vote for being someone who values learning. These votes accumulate. They compound. And over time they become the most powerful evidence available, evidence that your identity is exactly who you say it is. And when your identity is genuinely that of a disciplined person, the behaviors of a disciplined person follow naturally and automatically. Now let us talk about a concept that Sheldon Howe includes in this book that is often overlooked but is incredibly important for long-term sustainability, and that is the intelligent use of rewards. Our brains are fundamentally reward-driven. We repeat behaviors that make us feel good and we avoid behaviors that feel bad. This is basic neuroscience. And if you try to build discipline by making everything feel like deprivation and suffering, your brain will eventually rebel. Discipline needs to feel good. Not in an indulgent way, but in a genuinely satisfying way. The key is to choose rewards that support your goals rather than undermine them. If you want to reward yourself for a week of consistent exercise, buy yourself new workout gear, not a week off from the gym. If you want to reward yourself for sticking to a study schedule, treat yourself to a new book, not a week of Netflix. The reward should celebrate and reinforce the identity you are building, not temporarily abandon it. Sheldon Howe also emphasizes the importance of immediate, small rewards for the actions that lead to long-term goals. Because the brain has a difficult time staying motivated by abstract future outcomes. It responds best to immediate feedback and immediate positive reinforcement. This is why habit tracking, marking off a calendar, checking a box, watching a streak grow, is so surprisingly effective. That small visual confirmation of progress is a micro-reward that keeps the brain engaged and motivated day after day. And now we arrive at the most important concept in this book, the one that ties everything else together. And it is this: building discipline is not a project with a finish line. It is a practice. It is a way of life. It is something you choose and recommit to every single day. And the sooner you make peace with that truth, the sooner everything gets easier. The most disciplined people in the world still have bad days. They still have mornings when getting up feels impossible. They still have moments when the pull of distraction feels overwhelming. They still have seasons when their routines slip and their consistency breaks. The difference is not that they never experience those struggles. The difference is that they do not let those struggles define them. They know that struggle is temporary. They know that it is human. They know that it does not mean they have failed or that they are not disciplined people. It means they are having a hard day. And tomorrow they will choose again. Sheldon Howe closes this book with a message that is both simple and deeply moving. He says, every single time you make a disciplined choice, no matter how small, you are building something. You are building the proof that you are the kind of person who does what they say they will do. You are building the confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. You are building the character that extraordinary achievement requires. And you are building the life, piece by piece, day by day, choice by choice, that you have always known you were capable of living. So here is your challenge. Not next week. Not starting Monday. Right now. Think of one thing, just one, that your most disciplined self would do today that your current self has been avoiding. And do it. Not perfectly. Not for a long time. Just do it. Start. Take one step. And then take another one tomorrow. And the day after that. Because that is exactly how it works. That is how extraordinary lives are built, not in dramatic overnight transformations, but in the quiet, consistent, daily decision to choose discipline over comfort, purpose over impulse, and your future self over your present convenience. Thank you so much for watching this all the way through. If this gave you value, if even one idea from this video sparked something in you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Divine Vedanta and hit that bell icon so you never miss a life-changing book summary. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the one discipline habit you are committing to starting today? I read every single one. Until next time, choose discipline. Choose your future self. That is where your extraordinary life is already waiting for you.